Okay, give yourself a big round of applause. Thank you all. So, as the Democratic leader in the House, it was my job, not only during the session, to go out and basically deliver our message where we were on the issues taking place in Frankfort, Kentucky. Whether it was charter schools or whether it was policies against working families, to drive down wages of hard-working individuals that grab a dinner bucket and a hard hat and a steel toe pair of shoes every day. People that hang on these scaffolds right down here on the steel rods down here, burning welding rods, working hard every day in the cold wind and in the hot summertime. Legislation passed that's not good for working families across Kentucky. Who would have thought that a promise made would be a promise broken? And legislation passed out of a side room with a 291-page bill with the paper still warm and hot on it that was passed through the House and the Senate and on the governor's desk in less than 6 hours. And no teacher, no public employee, nobody who knew anything about it on either side was allowed to speak. Who would have thought when that unfriendly legislation on working families that was passed, right to work for less, repeal of prevailing wage, who would have thought that construction workers would have been locked out of the committee room and not allowed in? Had to sit outside and chant in, not to be for that legislation, don't pass that legislation. You know why they couldn't get in? You know who filled up the committee room that day?
Koch brothers.
The Koch brothers and the Americans for Prosperity came and had breakfast that morning, and they stayed. So the committee doors were locked, and nobody was allowed in on legislation that had impacted them in a way about their pocketbook and how they put food on the table and a roof over their head. So why am I as excited and energized as I've ever been? Yeah, I've been knocked down a little bit, okay? We didn't pick up as many seats as we wanted. We picked up 2. But let me tell you, we've been challenged again, folks, and you want me to talk about what's going to happen in this next session? I know what we're going to continue to be. As the minority party in the House, and as the Democratic minority leader in the House, we're going to continue to be the loyal opposition on issues where we believe people need a voice and they don't have one. We're going to stand strong on the legislation that we don't believe is good for Kentucky. But I'll tell you, where we believe it is good, we'll reach across the aisle. And we'll grab them by the hand and say, yes, we're with you. We're going to try to help you. We believe that's good for Kentucky. But I can tell you this. When a process is abused, folks, I'm a former majority leader. I have deep respect for the process in Frankfort, Kentucky. Deep respect for it. When you're the majority leader, you prepare for the floor every day. You try to abide by the rules the best you can. When I was the majority leader, I always went to the minority leader and said, look, I'm going to make a motion here to suspend the rules, but here's why we're doing it. And when we do it, I want you to know about it so you won't be surprised about it. But we got to get a reading and get it back to committee, because it may be a budget bill, but we're still going to honor the posting on it and the days that it has to move through the rules and to the House floor. So yeah, you knocked me back a little bit in this last election. We didn't do as well as we wanted to, but in this next session, I think it's going to be even more important that people stay mobilized and people stay energized and you stay engaged in the process that is going on in Frankfort, Kentucky. Are they going to come back after this court's ruling, regardless of what it is on public pensions? If they're not satisfied, are they going to come back again and try to do more? Are they going to try to impact public education in a negative way? Folks, let me tell you something. I've got an open mind on things. I studied the charter school issues. I looked at what it had done in other states. Let me tell you something, folks, it ain't working. It's not working. It's not working. And let me tell you, when you already take an underfunded system, like public education across Kentucky, and you start diverting public education dollars, your tax dollars, out of the public classroom to a private, for-profit corporation that will run these charter schools, folks, that's wrong. There's nothing right about that. Are you going to stick in there and stay energized and continue to fight and be a voice against this kind of I don't need that. This governor's attempt to take 100,000 people off of health care. I'm a 23-year survivor of cancer, folks. I'm a 23-year survivor of cancer. I had the chemo and the radiation and the surgery. I've been there and done it, okay? I did lose my hair, but really that's That's what's caused me to lose my hair, to be honest with you. I've lost my hair over the last 2 years in Frankfort, Kentucky, to be honest. 100,000 people to be removed from health care. 100,000 people really that are working families, that are working 2 or 3 jobs a day. It's not a handout, folks. These are people on expanded Medicaid. They basically are working 2 or 3 jobs a day for the first